Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode 102. It is May 31st, 2021. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane at the helm.
Cool cats and kittens.
Mr. Terrence Chan up in BC. How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Getting ready for summer. Feels good.
It is nice. And speaking of summer, Daniel Negreanu in Las Vegas. Daniel, warm and sunny out as usual down there?
Yeah, hot, beautiful, gorgeous. Vegas is absolutely jam-packed, mask-free. It's completely over here. You still see people wearing masks occasionally, but the vast majority of people are just living life again here in Vegas.
It's interesting, right? So we're watching hockey. We're four Canadians. The playoffs, the first round of the playoffs is always the most fun. And you see some of the crowds that are coming back, not just to hockey, but to the Indy 500 and all that kind of. It's really seems like COVID's over in the U.S. and these games. When you watch a hockey game with no fans, Canadians, we're purists. We're going to watch games. It's a playoff game. We're going to watch it. But when you watch it with fans, you realize how much greater sports events are when fans are there going crazy, especially this time of year when they're bananas. And Danny, you took in a Golden Knights playoff game, right?
Yeah, two of them. I went to game 2, and of course I went to game 7 against Minnesota. And like you said, it's really interesting. There is somebody, an usher in the hall, that has this sign that says like mask up, because you're supposed to, be masked up. And absolutely nobody in the entire section was masked up. Like nobody's paying attention to it. And then there's some theater too. Two things in particular. One is it's like 13,000 capacity, because 17,000, that would be a number that, oh no, So you have 3 seats where you can sit, and there's like a seat loft, like not available, and then 3 seats, like, because, COVID can't jump seats, right? And then, of course, I brought Jennifer to the game, who has kidney issues or whatever, and she brought the smallest of bags. I mean, it's like a little tiny bag, and they said absolutely no bags in because of COVID protocol. And I thought to myself, like, do they think she's smuggling COVID in the little tiny bag that she's bringing in the stadium? And then I realized that because I asked about it, I'm like, why would that be a thing? Supposedly, it's when you go through security, which they don't have to touch anything anyway. This way, the TS or the agents don't have to actually go through your bag and touch anything, which you can get COVID from, which we already know is not really a thing. And besides that, people can open the bag and put everything in the container. You can look at it without touching it. So it's like, I'm all for precautions and being careful in these things, but like, there's a lot of stuff that I call theater. Plexiglass being one of them. And I'm sure we'll get to that as well.
Yeah, no, but, sticking with the hockey a bit, your old team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they were up 3-1 in the series against the Montreal Canadiens. For those that aren't following, they lost game 5 and game 6. Game 7 is today, which is why we're doing the podcast a little bit early, I think, so we can all watch game 7 of the Habs Leafs. There's lots.
Can I just interrupt, because you talked about fans? What would the ticket price be for a Montreal-Toronto Game 7 if tickets existed, right? Like, obviously the series only exists because of COVID, because otherwise, like, there's 2 teams that aren't in the same division normally. But what do you think it would cost to get in the door in either Montreal or Toronto for like a Game 7 between the Leafs and the Habs?
So let's imagine it was the Stanley Cup final, and it was the Habs Leafs Game 7. I remember. So when Vancouver played Boston here in 2011. It cost $1,600 a seat for some of the best seats in the house.
We were lower bowl, yeah.
For Game 7 for lower bowl, yeah. So I'm want to say,
with Montreal, like, you could easily get from one city to another, right? So you would have the 2 most rabid fans in all the NHL. Like, I know I hate the Leafs like everybody else from Vancouver does, but like, let's be clear, like, they are very loyal fans. Like, they would be competing against each other for all of those tickets. Like, it would maybe even hit like 5 figures. Like, it would be insane, right?
I would say 5,000 or 6,000 a seat, easy, probably. I don't know, Daniel, what do you think?
I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm so bad at that Price is Right game. My wife used to laugh at me, like, there was like some patio furniture, and she's like, "How much do you think that costs?" And I was like, "I don't know, like 35,000."
Oh, this is great. One day we have to do a lot of things for Daniel on like regular household objects.
That would be a fun game show. That would be fun. How much is a bottle of window washing fluid? Whatever. It doesn't.
Right. Yeah. What's shampoo cost?
What's a fair price to pay your wedding photographer?
I don't know. Is
it over or under 20,000?
Is it 5,000?
Or the Dan band? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so getting back to that a little bit, Game 7 tonight. If the Leafs lose, there's been a little bit of chatter like this would be one of the most devastating losses for the Leafs if they did lose
Would be,
this
I
one.
think, the 8th consecutive loss they've had with a chance to close out.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Wow.
Yeah, they haven't won a playoff series since 2004.
And they lost one of their best D. Jake Muzzin's out now. They're behind the 8 ball tonight for sure. And Montreal's got that nothing to lose, right? They got Carey Price can steal any game. I can't wait to see it. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. But anyway, a lot of Americans aren't caring too much about our Canadian teams playing. So, but getting back to the COVID thing, for a while now, the poker rooms, and not just poker rooms, like the blackjack tables, I think, like a lot of the casinos have had these partitions up. This sort of plexiglass octagon, as it were, at a poker table now, where you've got these plexiglass between you and the players beside you, and it's this sort of a difficult thing to get through if you're trying to go and play poker. It's a social game, and it sort of takes away from that. And now that we've got COVID sort of going away, and we've got some of the restrictions being loosened up, we're getting rid of these things, which is great because we want to get poker back to normal. Daniel, you helped them get rid of some of them last night at the Aria in the 25K.
Yeah. So as you can see here in the video, okay. So because I posted this as like, I don't know, as if it's like privilege or something. I was joking around, like Chris Brewer, which we can get to, beat me in a kind of a silly hand, and he busted me in the tournament. And so like I jokingly was like, I'm gonna break this plexiglass, whatever. And I had no intention of actually kicking it or breaking it. But as you can see, like with my left hand, like when I put my hand up to lift myself, it's flimsy shit. So I snapped it off, right? So I'm going with the idea that like the plexiglass is coming down anyway. So I thought I would offer a helping hand and get to the process early, by doing them a favor. So yeah, that was actually, and if you could see, like everyone was just laughing. It wasn't a legit rant, like, cause I've had legit ones. I wasn't actually steamed up. It was more just, oops. Yeah.
You're just making a joke. Yeah, for sure. So what was the result? Did they get mad at you? What's the floor men do?
I mean, no, everybody was laughing. They didn't say anything. It's just like, I wasn't actually trying to break the damn glass. Like my foot actually, by the time I tried to kick it, it was already off. Yeah, hard to see.
Adam, if it's you or me, are we getting 86 from the casino?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I think if you did it, there's certainly ways that you could do it. Like if you smashed your fist into it, or, were screaming F-bombs left and right, and it was apparent that you were doing it on purpose, then probably, sure. I think Daniel probably would have too, if he was kicking it and yelling and screaming at his opponent or something.
Yeah. Interesting thought about the plexiglass. I did want to raise one comment. I mean, obviously, I think most people are pretty happy. One comment that I've heard is that women players have actually really liked the plexiglass because men tend to be invasive with their space at the poker table, as they say. So I've actually seen a lot of female poker Twitter talk about they actually will miss the plexiglass, which I can sort of understand that point of view because.
But the problem with the plexiglass is like if I'm sitting here and you're sitting here, we can't talk.
Yeah.
We have to actually stand up.
That's probably another reason women like it, because they don't want to be talked to.
I don't think that's all women. I think maybe some, but I can't imagine that's like a gender specific thing that women don't like engaging in conversation at the table. But like I bet you Marley Cordero doesn't like it.
Marley Cordero probably would be. Yeah, I agree. She's in the anti-plexi.
She's like one of those people that has her own opinion, and then some people disagree with it, don't like it, but she doesn't. She's not a mob follower. Whether because a lot of people do. I think like people like, okay, well, it's easier to say things publicly that the majority of people agree with than it ever is to say things that people don't. But she's got for lack of a better term, she got balls when it comes to that.
Well, because I've read tweets sort of on both, and I think the majority of men favor the plexiglass coming down, but it would be interesting to see sort of a secret ballot about plexiglass, and I think it might be actually a little closer than you expect. But I don't know. I've never actually played with it myself, so I can't comment.
All right, moving on to actual poker that's going to take place. We have the U.S. Poker Open starting on June 4th, running through the June 15th. This is at the it's going to be at the RA, right? And PokerGo is going to film them.
Yeah. So this is going to be an event that happens in the PokerGo studio. We really believe this is going to have a really good turnout. There's likely going to be spillover where the rest of the tables would be in the Aria poker room. And the way that it's going to work is the actual event, if you guys want to play it, The first one is on June 3rd, but you can watch it live on June 4th. We'll play down to a final table. The events will run from noon to noon. And it's a cool format. Like, it's a little bit almost like a WSOP style preview, because it's no limit hold'em, and every other day, except for the last 2 days, there's a non-hold'em event. So it goes like no limit hold'em, PLO, no limit hold'em, 8-game mix, no limit hold'em, big bet mix, no limit hold'em, short deck. So it's kind of like a wide variety. As you can see, the buy-ins start to increase with a 50K at the end. And of course, because Kerry loves his trophies, right? We got the green jacket for the Poker Masters. And now we have the monstrosity, which is the Golden Eagle Trophy. Look at this thing. This is 54 pounds, okay? It weighs 54 pounds. And as you can see, it took over 60 hours to build it. And that's going to be what we're playing for in terms of the point system, which leads me into, in terms of point systems, another cool thing that we'll be starting at the US Poker Open for all PokerGo subscribers is the opportunity to join Super Draft, okay? And Super Draft is going to be offering a and I've played with the software a little bit in a beta, and it's actually pretty cool, where much like daily fantasy sports, there will be contests for the US Poker Open. I believe for PokerGo subscribers, there'll be a minimum $10,000 prize pool for this one. So check out Super Draft. There'll be more information coming out on PokerGo.com. But I think it's a really fun thing. Like, I think that from a from a fan perspective, we've always believed, and we tried this iSeries Live a while ago, but like, so the idea of being able to bet on poker events, much like you can do in the GG client and things like that, and on poker shares, that's really what gets fans, more interested and engaged in watching the final tables.
I like the trophy. Can I just say I like the trophy? I think the move away from jewelry to trophies is a very positive thing for poker, because honestly, like, people don't wear their poker jewelry, it seems. I mean, you almost never see somebody winning the World Series wearing the World Series bracelet anymore, unless like they just got it. Or, I mean, I think there's probably some more older school players that wear it, but it's very rare that you see people do it. I think a trophy is a nice thing. It gets to stay in your house. You live in it. Like, people who don't play poker come over your house. They ask you about it. I like that. But like, I don't have a World Series bracelet, but even if I did, wouldn't be wearing mine. And I like the idea of trophies. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I remember the one that stopped being cool. Like, because it was, I remember I won.
It was gradual. It wasn't like, it wasn't instantaneous. It was gradual.
Right. Like, I wore mine in 1998, and I'd wear it in the shower. Like, I would take it off, And like, most people wore it back then. And then, as we've sort of headed down the trend of like, players being too cool for school, or like, oh, you wear your bracelet. Like, I remember the first person. This is so crazy. The first person who sort of mocked me for wearing my bracelet was Howard Lederer, of all people. Wow. Yeah. He's like, well, what are you wearing that for? It's kind of gaudy. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm getting fashion advice now from this guy. But like, yeah. So I remember there was a period where that happened. And I think like, this is a trend that I don't like too. And this is a side topic, but like the idea of being too cool for school when you're playing, like, and not showing emotion. And we've talked about this a bunch, but I mean, listen, if you're proud of wearing your bracelet, absolutely, nobody should mock you or make fun of you. It's like,
I just never liked the way they look. I would not wear it because it's too for school. Like, for example, when I won like the Scoop watch, I was like, I don't really wear watches, but it looks fine. I'll wear it. Like, it was because like the Scoop watches back then, and this was like 2007 or whatever, they weren't like gigantic thing. I'm a small guy. I have small hands. Putting a gigantic watch on me, I think like small dude with huge watches kind of looks ridiculous. You see that a lot. Like, I'm I don't have huge wrists. So like, it was just a reasonable size, decently nice watch. It wasn't like a $40,000 watch. So I wore it and I was like, fine. It tells me the time. It looks nice, whatever. I never thought, like, it's hard to make, I don't know, bracelets for men. You got to be a certain kind of guy to wear a bracelet. Like, you should have a lot of chest hair. You should at least be 230 pounds. And preferably speak with a vague, undeterminable accent to be able to pull off golden bracelets as a man.
I forgot to mention one thing. I know we're going back. I forgot to mention the plexiglass thing and like what sparked it. And it's a hand that I posted, and people were like, it's so crazy how results oriented people can be. This is a tournament that pays 7 spots. There are 10 left on 2 5-handed tables with big blind ante. Okay. I raised the 5-handed. I open on the button with pocket 9s. And I actually posted it was 37 bigs. My opponent had 32 bigs. I open, min raise with pocket 9s on the button. The big blind, Chris Brewer, who's a very active and aggressive player pre-flop. He's incredibly aggressive. as you'll see by the hand that he shoves with. So he shoves 32 big blinds with the ace-4 offsuit. And I've just not been running well in these spots. And of course, I get people mocking me for calling with nines here. They're like, well, it's like amazing because if I would have won the hand, nobody would say a word. But because I lost the hand, the social media is like, well, I mean, why are you calling heaps with nines here? That's like clear. Like if you fold nines, like that's.
Well, let's talk about the ace-4. Is that Snapshot approved?
No, that's too many.
I didn't think so.
I think personally, what happened there, if I were to break it down, I think he believes that I might have been opening a little too wide and overfolding, right? Because if that's the case, then the play's fine. But that wasn't really.
Are we in any sort of ICM position where he has leverage on you, ICM wise?
No, we're both he had 32 big blinds, I had 36 or 37.
So not even that. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that's Daniel? Do you think that's sort of the old way of playing Daniel Negreanu a little bit more of small ball? Daniel wants to keep pots small and
I mean, it could seep in. But there's another thing too. Like a lot of people who are like ICM. I'm like, there's 10 left. Okay, it pays 7. When you play in these high rollers, that's a long way from the bubble. I know it sounds crazy to think like 3 spots is a long way to the bubble, but there was no like short stacks with 6 or 7 big blinds. Everybody was pretty close to the average or whatever. So it wasn't like you're just going to fold out and squeak into the money when you're 10-7. And besides, why would you want to, right? Like you're trying to win first prize and a hand like nines. I tried to explain this on Twitter to a couple people. It's like, if you fold nines there, then you cannot open the button at all. Like you just have to fold everything. Because if you're folding nines, and the person could literally go all in with any random 2 cards and print against you.
Right. It essentially cripples your ability to open the button if you can only open with hands that are better than nines.
But did any real poker players say, or was it just sort of?
God, no, just random people on Twitter that like to shit on you and because here's the thing. I know.
Don't read the comments.
I know. Well, it's on Twitter. It was Twitter comments. I know for a fact. I know it without even the remotest amount of doubt that I'm playing better poker now than I've ever played in my life. Right? But then if you look at my results, they don't back that up at all. Okay? Tournaments, like I did have a third the other day. I feel like I've been running really bad in these spots. I lost to Phil Hellmuth twice. Okay? Obviously the Doug Pope thing didn't go as well as I would have liked, and I've had a lot of misses in WSOP. So I know deep down that I'm playing really well, and I know the underlying luck factor has been heavily against me. But I also know there's not a lot of value in pity parties and saying woe is me. But I don't allow people to discourage me from that because, obviously, if you just looked at it on the surface and people don't understand, you're like, well, he must suck now because he keeps losing, right? But I know my time is coming, and I'm hoping it's going to happen here at this U.S. Poker Open, and I start to run good in these spots because, eventually, 9s and 8s are supposed to beat ace-4 offsuit. I lost the one against Phil Hellmuth, all in with 8s against ace-4 offsuit, and I lost this one with 9s against ace-4 offsuit. So I'm a human being, and sometimes it starts to play fucking tricks in your brain. But the good news is, it's not affecting my play. I'm playing in these fucking high rollers. I'm dominating actually in the deep stack play because that's where I really spend a lot of my time and focus. And then you're getting to the end game, and I just haven't been running good. But I'm hopeful and confident that that's going to shift.
And now you've got the bet with Hellmuth about him playing in those and him having an ROI, etc. Has he stuck his nose in yet?
Well, so that's the thing. He's a lot of the time he talks about stuff. But when it comes to putting the money up or, actually finalizing it, he's iffy. And so the bet is available if he wants it, right? Whether he's going to actually follow through, because we heard him say, yes, he's going to do it. But now it's we have to work out the terms. I'm like, what terms? It's whatever you want to talk about. You want to do it by bullet. You want to do it by event, whatever you want, bud. It's fine. So he has not, as of yet, that he's going to take up the thing for sure.
All right. I want to just go back to this tournament quickly because I want to talk about the general rules here, which are awesome. And if anybody out there is planning on a series or anything like that, have a look at these rules because they're great. So no tournament fees for players who register by 12 p.m. So if you start before on time, you don't pay a register fee, which is awesome. It's going to get people there. Now I get it. They're televising it. They want people there to fill the seats, et cetera. But late entries and re-entries.
Well, that's actually true for something. That's true whether they're televising them or not. All of the events, they always do that to promote people showing up on time. Otherwise, you have four starters.
Right. Late entries and re-entries will pay the designated fee. The 10K and 25K events are double re-entry. The 50K is single re-entry. So you can enter twice in the 10K or 3 times in the 10Ks. Levels are 40 minutes with 10-minute break every 2 levels. All events are 2 days. So 40-minute levels are decently long, right? I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, and the structures are good because Kerry does them right. Where a lot of these tournaments, like, and I get it for these deep main events that take 5-6 days, like starting with 300 big blinds is kind of silly because when you do that and you're trying to, make an event end in a reasonable amount of time, then you're wasting a lot of early time where you could just you could play meaningful poker for longer. So in these tournaments, you start with generally these ones are going to be 125, but most of the 10Ks you would start with 100 big blinds right off the bat, and then it really moves up very gradually from there. So you're like, but you're playing, meaningful poker right off the bat, which I think most people prefer.
No limit hold'em players are seated 8-handed and switch to 7-handed after registration closes, which is awesome. Poker shot clock, 30 seconds and 6 30-second time banks each day. Used time banks can be used the next day. Final 6 players will receive 6 additional time banks. Again, keeping the play moving. This is great. And I'm just saying that if these rules are fantastic, it's player friendly, it's TV friendly. This is really the way to run tournaments, and I hope we get more to this with even tournaments that aren't televised. I hope we move towards some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's great because we've had this sort of like mini ecology of like ecosystem of players that we can sort of experiment different things with, like the big blind ante, which obviously spread down, and we can sort of test it in these small environments and see how it works. And all of the things that we've implemented, I think, are really, really good. And I think it's going to be fun for people, again, being able to draft a team on Super Draft. Again, you have to be a PokerGo subscriber to have to take part in this one. And if you want a subscription to PokerGo, I think you can use promo code Daniel and you might save a couple bucks on an annual, but I don't really remember and I don't care all that much. But I do care that you have one. I don't care that much if you use my promo code.
There we go. All right, moving on. We've got a couple of robberies actually to talk about this week. And one of them was Chad Power, who is a high stakes poker player in Las Vegas. He was followed home by a man named Brock Brewer, who waited for Chad to leave, I believe it was the Aria, and then broke into his house and walked out with Chad's safe containing $750,000 in cash and $250,000 in casino chips. Totally broad daylight. Like he sat and waited for Chad to leave his house and broke in and walked out of the house with his safe. And I guess the police have arrested this guy. He's done it before. But, you don't want to blame guys or anything like that. But, there's ways of having your money in casino chips, in casino boxes, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember back in the day playing at, the casinos around Los Angeles, that this would happen quite a lot. People would get followed home. And I think there was a couple of even murders from like the Commerce or Hollywood Park or wherever. So, just a reminder out there to people, like, be really, really careful about, how you handle your money. And yeah, it's nice to have it on hand. I get it. But geez, like if this is going to happen, and it's happened before, this guy's done it, obviously several times. So just be real careful out there. Thank God they got the guy. Hopefully they can get all of Chad's money and chips back. But this could have gone way worse for sure.
Yeah. If you're playing high stakes, Daniel, and maybe you can speak to this, like what is the reason not to have a box and just leave the money and chips in the box as opposed to taking it home with you? I mean, you don't need that much spending money.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic, and I wanted to point out that like most poker players like are not as organized as they should be on this and they should all open an account with Lexicon Bank. You guys remember Russell Rosenblum, right?
Of course.
He's involved at Lexicon, so he understands gambling. And what Lexicon Bank will do for you is they'll get access to all your casino cards or whatever. And you just let them know, where you're playing. They'll send the money. They'll wire it for you, so you have it there. So you don't have to go from casino to casino. Like in this case, which we'll talk about with Brewer, we normally play at the Aria, so people don't have Venetian money. So a lot of people, brought cash and chips from Aria over to Venetian, right? And when you do that, you open yourself up to some issues. What most people do now is, so you do have a box, but like for example at Aria, you just have a player's account. So for example, when I go play the US Poker Open, I go with my little card, I'll buy into the tournaments, and it'll just draw down from my account. Like I just have the account set up where, it'll, and then when I win or lose or whatever, when I win a tournament or something, I'll just say, put it in my account, and we leave it that way. That way you're not leaving the casino. Now, why would Chad bring all that kind of money home? The only thing I can think is there's the possibility that he plays in private games where they actually just use, I don't know if that's legal or not, but I'm assuming that's like, because what other reason would you have to bring that home unless you were, it's very, very obviously silly. And we have to take seriously that, there's always going to be, if you're carrying $1 million in chips, you know, in a casino and bringing it home, like you run. And apparently he was nonchalant about it from what I heard. He just kind of like had him in his hand or something like that. And I've done dumb shit like that in the past. But again, highly recommend opening an account at Lexicon Bank. Give them all your info in terms of your, you know, your cards and all that kind of stuff, and they'll handle it for your taxes as well. It's really worthwhile.
Also, in this vein, and Daniel, I believe you were sitting right beside Chris Brewer. He had his bag stolen from, I believe, the food fair area with lots of chips in there as well, some casino chips. So I think he was saying that, you know, if anybody's out there and you know, sort of a PSA to the poker community, if people are trying to cash large denomination chips and sell them that you don't know, please bring it to the attention of the police and probably the casino of the chips that they were issued at. So yeah, Daniel, you were on the hand for that, right?
I was sitting right next to him when this happened. It was right after the dinner break. And I believe that this likely led to his ace-4 offsuit shove too, right? You have to factor in the fact that he's a little steamed up, because what happened was, and apparently Ali was missing his bag as well. I'm not sure if he found his. But so he went to the food court up and around in the Venetian and ordered some food or whatever. And then he like left his bag there, right? And so here's the thing.
The bag was in the poker room while he was in the food court? Am I getting it right? Or the bag was also in the food court?
To the food court, put it on a table, and left and forgot to grab his bag. Now, here's the thing with Venetian, and I know this because like on the dinner break, I wanted to leave my bag at my seat at the poker table, just like my little lunch bag. And they said, no, you can't leave it here, right? Because they're very careful about, you know, unchecked bags, right? For, you know, safety precaution or whatever.
Terrorism.
Right. So Chris said he went back 10, 12 minutes later to check, and the bag was gone already. So the concern, so was this a question of, you know, security picking it up or lost and found, or did somebody grab the bag? Now, the problem with the food court is, and you would think that in a casino where there's surveillance cameras everywhere, that they would be able to spot whoever grabbed it. There are no surveillance cameras in that area. So like a double screw you know? Now I was talking to Chris too, because like obviously he had a combination of chips and cash, and we know that the chips, whoever has the chips, they're useless to them. It's going to be very, very difficult for them unless they find a poker player or shady person who's already has an account and exchange chips, willing to do that, but they'd have to find that person first. Very, very difficult to change big chips. You know, even 5Ks, you know, around town. And when you do sit down at a table with 5K and you're just some random person, try to like gamble, you know, that doesn't really work all that well either. But I forgot where I was going with that, so I'll just stop there.
Well, I mean, you know, when you're carrying high dollar chips, like when I had them, I'd put them in my pocket. I'm not sure why you'd have them in a bag and where they can get stolen if you're not looking, whatever. But, and again, not blaming the guy because it's not his fault.
Sometimes they don't fit in your pocket when there's too many of them.
Yeah. Also,
he did get lucky that day. So this is great. Cause like, so we're trying to look at the bright side because he had a bunch of chips and cash, right? But like when he showed up, he bought in, like 3 people asked him for money. So like he would have had another $75,000 in chips in there, but he gave them to other people. So it's kind of like, you know, trying hard to look at the bright side.
I remember your brother, Adam, Dan Idema, first time. I mean, he hasn't been to the World Series in a while, but I remember one of the last times I saw him at the World Series. He saw me rolling up. He checked out my sweatpants. He's like, "Where'd you get those sweatpants?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I think my girlfriend got them for me." He was very impressed that I'd managed to locate cotton sweatpants with a zipper. Because if there is one piece of poker apparel that is really valuable, it's zippers on your sweatpants. So because you can hold chips in. So.
Indeed. All right. One of the things that struck me this weekend, guys, was that this is normally the weekend that the World Series of Poker starts. The casino employees, you know, event is usually on the Friday or the Thursday, and we roll right into the World Series starting in the beginning of June. And we're not going to do that this year, obviously, but you know, I saw lots of questions out there on Twitter, so I wanted to reset a little bit of where we are with the World Series. So as we know, what we know now is we have, again, 2 World Series of Poker online series, one at WSOP.com starting July 1st, so a month from now. 33 bracelet events, including a $7,777 high roller and featuring the $1,000 buy-in championship event on July 31st. There is one guaranteed prize pool. That is the very last event, event 33, the $500 grand finale on August 1st. It's got a $1 million guaranteed. So a pretty big guarantee there for a $500 tournament. The second online World Series Poker Series will be, of course, at GG Poker. This will be for everybody outside of the U.S. if you can play within your designated area, starting August 1st, running through September 12th. Also featuring 33 events. The folks at GG, and I'm sure Daniel has a hand in this, are working hard to put the schedule together right now, and it will be announced coming up. We've got the World Series Poker, the actual live in-person event again this year. Well, not again because it didn't happen last year, but returning, which is awesome. This is going to run from September 30th through November 23rd. So we're going to have an actual November 9 this year. The main event will start November 4th and run through November 17th. So if you're looking to go to the World Series this year, make sure you get going early, because remember, when the World Series of Poker is in the summer, rooms are plentiful. Nobody wants to be in Vegas when it's 43 degrees out. So it's pretty easy to get a room. But, when you switch to November, and especially with the amount of people that are pouring into Las Vegas, they need to get out, COVID's over, everybody's going to go party. The rooms are going to be really, really hard to come by. Daniel's going to have to be putting tents up in his backyard for people that want to come and stay there. So make sure you get on booking your rooms right away. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So if you don't get on it early, you're probably going to pay $500 a night if you want to get there. So don't do that. Also, the World Series of Poker Europe, Rosvadov, November 19th through December 8th this year. So it'll be pretty chilly there in Rosvadov at that time of year. But it's coming together. How's the GG Poker tournament series looking for the World Series? Is it getting finalized now?
Yeah, obviously, you have sort of a framework because we held this last year, so I don't think it'll be that difficult to kind of replicate or do something a little funkier or cool in that regard. But yeah, you touched on a lot of cool things there, and I wonder with the World Series live happening at this time frame, as you said, rooms will be, because there will be more conventions in town. There will be more people who potentially could jump on over and play some World Series of Poker events as well. So I imagine this could be an opportunity for events across the board to see a rise, because I think people are itching to play poker. And for those that are high rollers, my God, do you ever have a lot to play? Because you've got the US Poker Open coming up in June. Then you have the PokerGO Cup, which will happen in July. There's a heads-up tournament in July as well. And then, of course, you've got World Series of Poker Online. Then you got GG Poker Series for all of August. And then in September, you'll have the Poker Masters. And then in October, you'll have the World Series of Poker. So it's going to be like an incredibly busy year with lots of and again, for obviously most of you that are listening to the show are not, looking to play in those, but there's plenty. Follow Alan Kessler if you want to find out what good $100 buy-ins there are that have the best buffet coupons and things like that. But it's really a cool time for poker, because I feel like we'll have a mini boom in the US right now with so many people vaccinated and, raring to play.
It's an interesting point. When holding the World Series during a time when Vegas is full of people, there was always this, well, we want to have it in the summer because that's when the rooms were available and poker players are going to come and that's about it. We're not going to get a lot of spillover. I wonder now, let's say something really cool happens and, these events, the $1,000 buy-ins, they all get flooded by casual players that are in town. And even the main event goes crazy because everybody wants to play in the main event. If they start thinking that maybe it's better to hold it in those busy times because of that spillover, and yeah, it's going to be more difficult to host it because, everything goes up. But I don't know. This seems like something that could be, beneficial moving forward.
I think a hybrid of that is there's a small, I've not spoken to them about this, but I could see a potential hybrid. If that period of time has a really, really good turnout, you could have the World Series of Poker in the summer as we normally do, and then have a shorter version, a 2-week version in, this time frame, if it really, really works out. Because we already have the World Series of Poker Europe, so I don't think that the fall version of the World Series of Poker, winter poker, whatever, I think, I could see that happening. But I can't imagine they would want to stop having the World Series of Poker in the summer because, as you said, rooms are empty and, you need to fill the rooms. And this, at the end of the day, it's a business and people need to make money.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to it, obviously, of course, and get poker world getting back to normal. This is going to be great. And there's a lot of travel restrictions still going on. So when we start to look at, what are the numbers going to be, given the fact that we're hosting it in a busy time, maybe that offsets a little bit of the fact that there won't be people coming, or as many people coming from around the world, depending on, what the restrictions are at the time. So we'll see. My last question about GG Poker, and I just wanted to, given that the partnership here from the World Series is a pretty big deal for GG, right? This brings a whole new sort of group of people to GG that are tournament players. And then, is there more of a look towards expanding the game varieties on GG going forward? And what does that look like sort of from a development point of view, adding, short deck, all the different things that people like to play now?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think like when you think of the World Series of Poker Live, that is the festival that, caters to all the mixed game players, and, there's kind of a wide variety of events. But with the online series, there's going to be some PLO, of course. There will be short deck because we do have that in the software. But building out like stud and stud 8 or better, that's a process, especially with the software being as high end as it is, and for making that accessible and mobile. Like if you look at playing in the World Series PLO events, like you still can't play that on an iPad. Like that, you have to bring a laptop to the table because it's not workable. So I don't imagine that will be the case. I think if you're a mixed game player that really wants to play all the games at the World Series of Poker, you'll have the live option. But then online, I think, just in general, it's no limit hold'em and some PLO is way more popular.
I think there was one limit hold'em event last year, and I think the other thing that logic-wise you could probably build in not too difficult would be Omaha High-Low, because you already have software that deals 4 cards. All you have to do is kind of the analysis that tells the computer this is a low and this is a better low than this one, which surprisingly, actually, at the beginning at PokerStars, we actually had it screwed up for a little while in beta testing. The lows were not being scored correctly, and the worst hand would win, and then we had to fix that one. So yeah, it's not a trivial task, but yeah, when you talk about having stud and draw games, that's a much more monumental task. With respect to the World Series software, I mean, it's kind of a disaster, but they also have more regulatory issues with the Nevada Gaming Commission about that. So Faraz Jaka had a tweet about this. Poker software is not as easy as you think it is, was the TLDR of that. But check out Faraz's tweet on that. He mentioned that, and I wanted to shout that out.
Terrence, now that you're semi-retired, when you look at this World Series of Poker live schedule, what are you thinking?
I mean, I just don't know what the schedule is, right? I mean, obviously, I like the dates. The dates would be fantastic. I will probably play limit hold'em events. I don't really study no limit hold'em. Everybody else seems to study. It seems really hard to win now at no limit hold'em if you don't study. I'm not going to go down this path of saying that I invented GTO and therefore I don't need to study it, because that's not true. So yeah, I mean, maybe I will play some of probably the fun no limit hold'em events. I've always enjoyed like 8-handed crazy eights, for example, because it's a low buy-in. There's a lot of fun players. It's 8-handed. All of those things are really good about the crazy eights, for example. I will not play like the Colossus and subject myself to playing 10-handed, things like that. I mean, but again, we'll know more. I'll be able to give you more definitive answer on that when we actually see a schedule of events, which I don't know, like no inside knowledge on when that might be coming, right, Daniel? Nothing. You don't know anything that the rest of us don't know.
No, and if I did, they'd kill me. And I'm just kidding. I don't.
Okay.
And then Daniel, what about the online versions this year? The World Series of Poker, obviously the WSOP.com events you can play in, living in Las Vegas. The GG Poker, are you thinking maybe traveling to play these?
Yes. So here's the thing: the WSOP online events. I'm thinking what I'll do, because PokerGo is going to have the PokerGo Cup going on, and I asked Harry, if we could bring, if we could play like online while we're doing that. So I'm probably going to multi-table during that period, and then after that, we already have a place set up in Mexico again, really close to the house that we had last time, like in the same spot. So my wife really loved it. It's just like, it was really good for us, a little getaway, just me and her. Not that like we ever see other human beings anyway, but no, it was really good. And she just loves, some people are drawn to water, and she loves being on the beach. Like there's something about it that has like a energetic shift in her where it just makes her happy. So it's really nice for me. I get to stream on GG Poker, and have my rants so that people can clip together all the spots in the time where I act like an asshole, which is inevitably going to happen, especially when I'm losing. And it gives fodder to the people that are just like Howard Stern, like, who hate me so much, but spend every waking hour going over every second of everything that I ever say. So I just want to thank you for tuning in, I guess.
All right. So that's the World Series. Looking forward to it again, getting back to normal. We're getting there. A little bit of a shift in time period, but that's fine. We're getting back to normal. That's the key. One other quick thing. I noticed that Chris Moneymaker is suing PayPal. And what happened was Chris ran a fantasy football league and held, I think it was $1,000 buy-in, and held $12,000 in his PayPal account that he had people sending in to pay for the league, and they confiscated, PayPal did, they've confiscated the $12,000 because it's against the terms and conditions. Remember, PayPal is not a service. They allow you to use for gambling transactions. It's just not, it's against their T&Cs. They could get in a lot of hot water with the government and regulatory bodies, et cetera. So they don't allow that. And I don't know if one of the people that sent in the $1,000 or whatever it was, the entry fee, noted that it was for fantasy football or whatever, because with PayPal, of course, you can always say, oh, I'm buying something for my friend and he's mailing it to me or whatever. There's ways to sort of circumvent a little bit. However, when you're doing large amounts of money and somebody puts in fantasy football or something, it's probably a red flag. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are here. This is, obviously feel sorry for Chris losing 12,000. It sucks. But against the T&Cs, and, I think it's pretty widely known that PayPal isn't used for gambling transactions. Is fantasy football gambling? Seems like it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll clarify one thing real quick, Adam, and it's that PayPal does not allow Americans to use transactions. Right. PayPal in the UK, no problem with it. Right. So right out the gate, we have a little bit of hypocrisy with respect to the
regulatory hypocrisy, right? I mean, I'm sure it's based on the regulations imposed on them.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, PayPal's a private company; they can make whatever arbitrary rules that they want. But it's a little hypocritical when they clearly do benefit from gambling. Now, I think what likely happened is what you said, like. You talk to anybody who runs any sort of fantasy anything draft, like whether it's a March Madness or fantasy football or whatever, like that, they'll always say, do not put in that this is for a fantasy league or a draft or whatever like that. And invariably, everybody who's ever run a fantasy league will tell you there's always that one guy or those two guys who have done that, and they invariably get in trouble for it. But it is such hypocritical thing, because I mean, PayPal, does benefit from this, even though they don't take a fee off of it, because if I'm sending to you money as a friend, they theoretically don't take a fee, but just the fact that we keep money in our PayPal account for this use, like, benefits that, because we'll end up using PayPal to buy other things. So, so the one part of me says that, yes, they're being hypocritical. This is the second part of me says, yes, they're a private company. They can do whatever they want. It's really unfortunate, I think, for Chris, because like he wasn't presumably trying to benefit from this. It's not like he's running some sort of gambling ring. He's almost certainly not taking a rake, based on everything I know about Chris. And so that's really unfortunate. He's probably just running a thing for friends, and it's really obnoxious. I mean, the rules with respect to gambling in the United States, that everybody competes in, like, fantasy football is just so big, and basketball and every other sport, it's just so big, and it's and DraftKings and FanDuel and all of these guys have tried to get ahead of the curve by bringing it into the thing. But people, at the end of the day, a lot of them, they just want to gamble with their friends when it comes to fantasy football. So why not allow that? It's so ridiculous and so puritanical. And so even though they're a private company and they can do what they want, I'm pulling for Chris and his lawyer here. By the way, Eric Benchamotion, the guy who's this, we of course, Adam, you and I know that name because he was a regular former contributor to our old podcast, is involved with this case. He was also involved with Todd Watellis getting a judgment from Mike Postel last week. He is Eric Benchamotion, just absolutely crushing the poker gambling space this week, and so he won the case, the settlement with Todd Watellis last week. Let's hope he goes 2 for 2 on this one.
Well, I'd be really, really curious to hear what his argument is, because from what I've seen, it doesn't appear that, you know, Moneymaker has a leg to stand on here. It doesn't have any real recourse because, as Adam said, if the terms of service are very clear that you can't use this for gambling, and they did use it for gambling, and I think that's pretty clear now. I guess you could question, like, how did they know it was gambling, or what process they did to discern that it is? But like, now that it's out there, that we know they were using it for a purpose that was not legally allowed to be used on PayPal, and part of the repercussions for that are the funds are confiscated. I'd be like fascinated to hear what the defense, or, you know, in this case would.
Well, I think the defense would just be that it's not like they could say, like, okay, close his account, right? Close the account of everybody that was involved, even. But do you PayPal have the right to seize $12,000?
Does it? It depends.
You're free rolling every time. Like,
it depends what the terms of service says, right? If the terms of service says clearly that your funds will be confiscated and your account will be frozen, then yeah, like, it might suck, but no, and because nobody reads the terms of service when they sign up to something, like, but if that's what it says in there, and they have every right to do, and I would imagine that they didn't just do this without it actually being backed by their terms of service. So based on that, like, I would say that, okay, this is where we talk about what's morally correct and what's legally correct, right? Morally, they shouldn't do that. They should give everybody their money back. Legally, they might not have to, or they may be under rule where.
But let's be clear, like, a terms of service, I mean, this has been proven in court in a lot of the European courts, and I'm no lawyer by any means, but you can't just throw whatever there's a sort of idea that you can throw whatever you want into terms of service, and then as soon as you click that box, you've agreed to everything that's said. The courts have ruled that's not the case. And there's a very clear reason, because nobody ever reads the terms of service, and nobody has ever read the terms of service in the history of anything. So, like, I think that, I mean, again, we can have Eric on the show and ask him about this, but I suspect that the argument's going to be made that, like, this is not a reason, seizing the 12 grand is not a reasonable penalty, and they have no right to actually take this money. And just because you write it into your terms of service that we can take this money if you use this for something that we don't like, doesn't mean they actually have the legal right to do that. Not just the moral right, but the actual legal right.
But if they don't, it's similar to poker sites, right? When they catch people doing something against the T&Cs, and they confiscate the money, because if they don't, people can just do it. And if they don't get caught, they don't get caught. If they do get caught,
but it's different. I mean, the poker sites have historically refunded the people who got cheated, right? Like, if you're talking about like an RTA situation or a collusion in a tournament situation, historically, I mean, we've had some exceptions, but historically, those funds end up getting returned to the players who are victimized, and they get to say, like, the poker site gets the good press of saying, like, look, it's safe to play here. We made everybody whole who was cheated. They didn't just go like, oh, these guys broke the rules. More money for us.
But I think what Adam's trying to say here is this: is that, so PayPal doesn't want people using their thing for gambling because it's against their thing, right? So if people do that, and there's absolutely no penalty other than you close the account, big deal, and you get all your money anyway, people could just keep doing it without any penalties. So this could be something that is like, that it prevents people from, using it, or some sort of penalty, because otherwise, like, why would you stop just doing it?
Well, and let me be clear. Like, I hope Chris gets his money back. He's a great guy, and I don't want his money getting confiscated. I just see it. I don't know. I guess I can see why PayPal would do something like that. Do I agree with it? No. I think they should, give their money back. But I get why they're saying, well, we need to penalize this because people will continue to do it. And the other thing is, he didn't break like a unknowable, term in the terms of service, like some little thing that nobody would ever think of. We all know that you're not supposed to use PayPal for gambling, or at least most of us, right? I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah, you should probably use Bitcoin instead.
No, exactly. Imagine if there was something that could solve this problem, right?
You should probably use Bitcoin instead.
But speaking of Bitcoin, I guess we should quickly touch on this. There's been obviously a big pullback in crypto prices across the board. I think Bitcoin's down about 50% as we speak in that range.
Oh, no, it's 37. The all-time high was like 63.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it was fairly big pullback. And, obviously the poker world is overly represented in Bitcoin ownage. So this is going to have a direct result on, the World Series of Poker.
I didn't see anybody saying the World Series of main event was going to hit 10,000 this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny how everybody thought that a month ago.
So, but okay. So speaking of that, let's get to some tweets, Roscoe.
You're going surfing on the internet.
Our boy Tony Dunst, best crypto training imaginable. So he's responding to Chris Kruk's tweet that says, "Welcome to live MTTs, everybody," talking about the variance in Bitcoin prices. And Tony says, "Best crypto training imaginable. Sure, losing 15% a day stings, but still better than losing 100% almost every day, which is spot on for sure." And then Max Silver had a tweet at Max_Silver. He was talking about, the announcement that came out, Daniel and Phil Hellmuth. Oh, I guess we should quickly touch on that. Daniel and Phil Hellmuth are playing round 3 of the high stakes duel, June 23rd at 8 p.m. on PokerGo. He was quote tweeting the response saying, Negreanu, the clear value bet here. If the players were equally skilled, then the chances of Hellmuth winning 3 of 3 is only 12.5%, giving Negreanu an 87.5% chance of winning the third one, which is awesome math. Trolling, half trolling.
Sounds about right to me.
Sounds good to you?
Sounds about right. Yeah, 87% feels right.
That's wrestling math, right, Terrence?
That is Steiner math. Let's be specific. Ross, you have Steiner math. I love Steiner math. Any excuse I can to listen to Steiner math. Let's do.
You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the 3-way at sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning, if we used to go one-on-one, and then add 66 2/3%, I got 141 2/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
I want to know how numbers spell anything. They're numbers. They're not letters.
I don't know, but anytime that appears on my timeline, there's 141 2/3% chance that I will click on it. Let me just say that.
So great. Moving on, Landon Tice. In my opinion, old school poker is art. New school poker is skill. I don't know.
Old school poker was skill too.
Exactly. That's kind of where I was going to go with it. It's like it's a different form of skill. Just because, so for example, I think now. The skill is different, right? The skill is, for him, specifically what he's doing is studying computers and learning from them, right? Well, before you had computers, there was still tons of skill in learning how to fundamentally play the game better with whatever resources we had, right? I think what you're suggesting maybe is that back in the old days, there was more room for creativity and more room for creative lines. Whereas today, if everybody, for example, if everyone at the highest levels was using the exact same resource to improve, right? Ultimately, what you'll see is most people playing a very, very similar strategy, right? Whereas, which is still a good thing. But back in the old days, when people were not all playing a very similar strategy, they kind of did all their own thing, like figuring out the best ways to exploit that. I mean, it's a combination of skill and art. So I don't think the delineation between the idea that old school poker is art and new school poker is skill. If anything, I would say old school poker was like artistic, skillful, creative, and today, poker's a lot more about work ethic and study than skill.
It was more abstract learning poker back then, and I think Landon shows his age a little bit because people have been studying poker mathematically for like a very, very, very long time. We just didn't have all the correct answers. Like right now, you input your sizing, you input the flop type, you input the pre-flop ranges, you get an exact answer of how often you're supposed to do it. And we never had the ability to do that because we didn't have computational power. What we did have was sort of toy games and abstractions. And we even had some basic simulations about pre-flop things, and we could sort of understand, generalize based on that. So it was a different way to study back then because, I always approached poker from a mathematical perspective. And to Daniel's point, even today, everybody does have access to sort of the same resources or almost same resources. Like everybody can fire up solvers and work with them potentially. But not everybody is going to play perfect. Some people are going to have be exploitable
in certain situations. That's just it, because we are not computers. We cannot play perfectly. So there is still very much an art of figuring out what situations people are exploitable. So I mean, I disagree with this tweet too.
Yeah, and I always think back to Doyle talking about, hard work is a skill, right? I think back to Doyle talking about sitting there and dealing out hands, just dealing out hands over and over and over again for hours and hours, and that's just hard work. It takes a different form now. That's all, right?
Yep.
Moving on, at Brit Stout, I watched a poker player win a huge pot in 510 and then get up from the table and stick his phone in his ear. Yeah, I know, man. I'm cashing out now. I could see his phone screen. It was the home screen page on his iPhone.
That's great.
Yeah, that reminds me. I used to play in an 8160 limit hold'em back in the day, and there's one guy who would, when he's stuck, he would play for like 3 days straight and just wouldn't quit. Right? But when he was up like even half a rack, all of a sudden he seemed to have this just back pain that he couldn't play. Oh, my back is killing me, bro, because he's up like 1,500. Time to go home.
What's that? Win like a bird, shit like an elephant. That's the term, right?
Yeah. It reminds me, actually, Evelyn Ng had that problem. When we first started coming to Vegas, like, I taught her to keep records and all this kind of stuff. And I saw, like, she was playing 10-20 Hold'em at the Mirage. And she won, like, close to 90% of her sessions. It was crazy. I was like, wow, how are you winning, like, every day? And then I took a deeper look at the sessions, okay? And that losing session, was like in 10-20, like $3,400 over 3 days to fucking just tilt. Whereas like her winning sessions were like 1.5 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So yeah, that's a recipe for disaster, especially old school poker players. It was like, I think people today are younger players that are professional are like better at that. But like guys like Phil Ivey and Ted Forrest, they sort of reinvented the wheel about like understanding that no. It's okay if I play for 20 minutes and I don't feel right, things are going quit. And then when I'm winning, put toothpicks in my eyes and I'm going to keep playing and crush this game.
Yeah, totally.
At Rob Gardner Live, a person walks up to you in Vegas and offers you a 10K free roll for one hand of Hold'em, no limit. You get to pick the cards for your 3 hands. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. The limit doesn't matter. You get to pick 3 cards for your hands, and he will get 5 cards drawn at random. So you get to pick the cards for 3 hands, and he gets 5 cards at random. If you hold the winning hand at showdown, you get 10K. What 3 hands do you choose?
So I'm just trying to understand this correctly. I'm going to pick 2 cards out of the deck, and he's going to get, like, I'm going to pick whatever 2 cards I want out of the deck, and he gets to choose 5 cards at random. Yep. We're going to have a showdown, my 2 cards versus his 5 cards.
Yes.
And they're just going to run out of board.
You get 3 hands of 2 cards against his 5-card hand.
I mean, I'm surprised if it's still not aces.
Okay. So aces is one of the hands that you would get for sure. What are the other 2?
Oh, I don't get that you pick aces again for every hand?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, you could pick the other 2 aces if you think that's right. But it's not.
There's going to be 3 separate hands. We're not reshuffling. Okay. Yeah. It's like, I'm confused at the way this question is being framed.
So aces is one of the hands. You get 2 other hands.
Oh.
And it comes out to about 60. I think it was 64.
I don't know. There's probably some value in like having pocket 10s because they block the high straight. Like they block all the medium straights.
Okay, so there is a 10 in that. The 2 other hands are 10-jack suited and 7-8 suited. Get you the most equity.
Okay, yeah.
Good job. There you go. That was interesting.
Who thought? Like, I can't imagine. Like, what? Wow, who thought of that? Like, what
also, like, did the guy write a computer programmer to verify the results? Like, you have to run a simulation to verify the results. So
the results got verified. Yeah, I think it was 64% or something. The 3 hands have equity.
I was thinking like 10s or 10-9 suited. Yeah, jack 10s. It makes sense because it overstraights all those hands. What about Alex O'Brien's piece in the BBC Future section? Alex O'Brien, if you know that name, it is because she won the Dan Bilzerian birthday free roll, of course, when Dan Bilzerian was signed to GG's, all the controversy about that. And then a woman won the free roll to play Dan Bilzerian heads up. She has written an article about her experience. The heads up match versus Bilzerian has not happened. It is over at BBC. It is called How a 10K Poker Win Changed How I Think. And it is a long form article. It's excellent. It's really good. I'm partially saying that because I've become friends with Alex and we play in the same group. of games. We play a bunch of other games together, but yeah, you should read it, and it's a really good for poker, as somebody used to say. Hashtag good for poker.
All right. That's going to wrap it up this week. Thanks to everybody out there for listening again. And thanks to you guys for getting together, and we will talk to you soon.